on this.
Oh, no.
So Nate, could you check and see if that's happening? And then I'm going to go online and see if we've got that.
I'm online and I can hear.
Okay, I'm online too and I can hear it too. Okay. Okay.
Great.
Apologies.
Thank you for double checking. Number 5 on the agenda is acknowledgements. So Becky, would you be able to introduce the acknowledgements, please?
Yes. Tomorrow is our Fbusd Employee Appreciation Day. Every year we designate one day because we have the a CTA Teacher Appreciation Day. We have the National Teacher Appreciation Day. We have CSCA, California School Employees Appreciation Week. So we love the month of May because we get to really honor our folks in very different ways. And the Parents Club have been really quite lovely at the sites and what they provided to our team. So thank you for that, Parents Clubs. Tomorrow, we are looking at just a day for Fbusd to take a moment and say thank you to our employees. So that's happening tomorrow. National Physical Fitness and Sports Month is this month, and then National Mental Health Month is this month. For donations, we had $100 donated by Timothy Zartman to support the FBMS soccer program. $7,000 was donated by the Community Foundation in Mendocino County to support the ASB Anchor Academy for the Pay It Forward Pantry. $500 was donated by Rotary Club of Fort Bragg to support the ASB Anchor Academy for the Pay It Forward Pantry. $3,000 was donated by the Fort Bragg Police Department to support the ASB Anchor Academy for the Pay It Forward Pantry. And a special thank you to Kathy Bibbins, Norma Watkins, Ginny Rorby, Karen and Mike Wynn, and Kirsten Makala and Makala Boatworks for donating 42 plush blankets to the Pay It Forward Pantry. These blankets are a highly desired item, and this donation represents $582 in materials. So thank you so much to all our wonderful community members who donate to our students. It's pretty impressive and we truly appreciate it.
Great, thank you. So the next item is communication. Does anyone want to share communication?
So there's retirements, Diana. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
So this year we have some retirements, and retirements are always bittersweet. We're excited for the people who get to retire, and those of us who are far from retirement, we're jealous. And really, we want to thank our retirees for their years of service and dedication to our students. So we want to thank Marcia Douglas, who is retiring this year, and Marcia actually started working for Fort Bragg Unified quite a while back and took a little hiatus and came back. So Marcia Douglas, thank you for your years of service. Rebecca Ellis Dorsey, who we all fondly know as Becky Ellis, is retiring this year as well. Thank you, Becky. She's been at Redwood the entire time, I believe. So that will be definitely some big shoes to fill. Susan Finkelstein, she left us, she came back. Susan has really been a special education teacher who has filled in many holes for us and has been a huge support. So thank you, Susan, for your years of service. Melinda McLaughlin, a dear friend of mine, I've had the power to suck her back in when we needed things, and I've appreciated her willingness to say yes to me when she really wanted to say no. She is going to close the door on saying yes to Becky Walker. So thank you, Melinda, for your years of service. Mr. Perkins, Mr. Roy Perkins has been at Alt Ed and at the middle school, and he's done a great job. We appreciate his support and everything that he's done. He's been our football coach. He's worn many hats in the district, and we wish him well on his new endeavors. Again, big shoes to fill. Rhoda Teplo retired at the close of last year, and we didn't really honor Rhoda. Rhoda was our adult school teacher, so we want to thank Rhoda for her years of service. And then as we move into next year, we have David Allen Bradley, our fearless custodian at Fort Bragg High School. I think some of you who graduated from Fort Bragg High School remember David Allen being there. So he is retiring and closing the doors on his on his leather vest that he's typically worn, I think, every day. And then Mary Solari retired at the beginning of this year, end of last year, and we weren't able to honor her at the time. So thank you, Mary, for your years of service. Wes Johnson was actually the most senior person in the district, I believe, and he is closing out a pretty lengthy career. Wes probably knows more about our sites than any other human being on the face of this planet. So he will definitely be missed. Thank you, Wes, for your years of service. Tom Van Pelt, what a good guy. He's been at the middle school and just given some really wonderful years of service to our district. And every time I see Tom in the hall, he always has a warm smile and just something very kind and lovely to say. So he will definitely be missed. So we have a group of people who have given many, many years of service to our district. And on behalf of everyone in the community, please know that they've touched so many lives of children. And on behalf of everyone in the community, we thank them for their service and dedication.
Thank you, Superintendent Walker. And I just want to add that Certificated is losing 70 years of experience and dedication, and Classified is losing 106 years. So that's 176 years of loyalty and commitment that we had. And so thank you for compiling the list and honoring these folks, because there are a few over 30 years. So that's quite, that's a lengthy commitment that they've had for our district. So thank you very much to the staff, and we'll miss you and hope to see you around town, that you'll stay in the community. So moving back on the agenda, communication. Did someone want to disclose communication? Received mail. Does anyone have anything? Scott?
I think we all got it. A request from the California Democratic Party to sign something about the governor's recall. I got it. No, you didn't get it?
Mm-mm.
So as a elected official, I got a call for that. I thought everyone got it. Sorry.
Okay. Maybe just forward it to Becky and she can see if we should address. And so I think everyone received a parent letter regarding wanting more instruction time and maybe some concerns about pickup time. And I, of course, always see parents at the grocery store and hear their needs. So a few of those items came up during the board chat. So are there any public participation on agenda items this evening? Okay.
Yes, we have one.
Okay. So I will, since there's only one, I'll read. It looks like it arrived at 5:01 today. Good evening, Board of Trustees and Superintendent Walker. I'm writing on behalf of Redwood Parents Club and Dana Gray Parents Club. These two nonprofit entities are made up of parents with the sole purpose of helping to support student learning, both academic as well as social, emotional, and mental health. We do fundraising throughout the school year in order to be able to pay for programs such as Scholastic and Mystery Science and more, as well as for field trips and assemblies to enrich the educational experience for all of our students. In addition, our PC provides money directly to teachers to help them provide items to enrich their classrooms and support the needs of their students' PE equipment. This year, due to the unusual challenges our students and staff faced, we work with the school counselors at Redwood to provide each teacher a toolkit to help students' overall well-being and mental health. We also work with librarians to provide new books for the library several times a year. As a direct result of COVID-19, we have been unable to do the traditional fundraising. We have missed 2 color runs, resulting in an estimated loss of $50,000 to $60,000 between the 2 parents' clubs, not to mention the other fundraisers throughout the year. We are requesting that the board and the district consider using some of the AB 86 or other COVID-19 funds to help fund some of the programs the parent clubs would normally pay for in an effort to support all students' social, emotional, and academic learning and enrichment. We work with principals to make sure the programs are aligned with curriculum and standards. We understand there are several pots of money provided to the district as a result of COVID-19, including AB 86, which needs to be spent. The guidelines, according to the spreadsheet 11.1 from the April 8th, 2021 meeting, are fairly broad. We understand that the money likely can't go directly to the Parents Club, but we believe it can be paid directly to the various programs to support students' varied needs. We are not asking for a specific amount, but if the board decides to provide funding help with these programs, we would gladly provide a list and amounts for the requested support and enrichment programs, as well as specific details of how these programs help to address student needs. This request is not for ongoing support of these programs, as we are hopeful that we can begin our fundraising efforts in the fall and we will be able to resume providing these programs going forward. This is a one-time request based on the fact that these are COVID-19 funds that need to be spent to help address student needs. Thank you very much for considering our request. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. Respectfully, Cindy Whitlock, President of the Redwood Parents Club and Treasurer of the Dana Gray Parents Club. Are there any more that have come in, Renee?
No, there are no others.
Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is board reports. So who would like to go first? Mary.
I will. Okay. Well, I was out of town for a month babysitting my granddaughter and didn't do too many things besides our meetings. I did do a board chat this morning, an agenda setting last week. A highlight was the CSBA Region 1 federal COVID funding meeting that was held. Pretty informative. Those meetings have been really well done, I think, and provide a lot of really great information for board members. So that was much appreciated and got a lot out of that.
Okay. Anyone else? Scott? Kathy?
I agree with Mary. That meeting was pretty informative. I still haven't been able to spend enough time with all those documents they sent us, but it was they're doing a really good job. And we got some emails about some other things within our districts today, so we'll have to check those out. And then also on April 20th, I went to the Three Rivers board meeting before one of our special meetings, and it was nice to see, they were talking about, of course, the kids and their program. It's much different than ours, but they were talking about the Casper testing was coming, and they have a big they have a surplus in their budget, which was for a building, and they're getting worried that they need to address that issue within since they haven't really found a place that they could build. So they're going to figure out what to do with it or how to properly allocate it. So it was very short and sweet, and they were done or asked me to leave for closed session before our meeting even started. So they're doing great stuff over there.
Very good. Scott, did you have something?
No, I just attended the same call that Mary and Kathy attended.
Okay, great. And I attended a Redwood site meeting, which was unfortunate that I was stuck at work, kind of like in the closet. So I had privacy, but I had an old laptop that didn't have sound and it didn't have picture. So I was just throwing in the chat just to welcome that I was there. But that was a very productive meeting that they had. And I just felt bad that I didn't feel like I was part of it because you couldn't see me and you could only read my typing. So I appreciated the time and I, being there to see the progress at their site council. I also, given that it's mental health month, CDE did a nice social emotional learning webinar for transitioning back into in-person on April 29th. So it's something you can look at. And I think it was an hour and a half. The first hour is pretty meaningful to kind of really weigh out what your needs are and to relation to what's really going on across the state with students and teachers. I just felt it meaningful to put things in perspective. And I also wanted to mention that the board chat, there was a mom that was trying to become more involved. So she didn't really have any specific questions, but she did ask about kindergarten enrollment, about special education, and she had a child at every site. So she kind of wanted to get ahead of what was coming. And then I think we had one staff member also attend this morning. So it's nice to have folks come to the board chat because it is kind of an impromptu, any questions. And it's nice. Becky had reminded us that, it's not something that we can openly talk at a board meeting because it's the board's meeting, but it's also the real issue is that we can't talk about things that aren't on the agenda. And it has to be, we have to give opportunity for public and the posting. So the Brown Act makes it hard for us to have a two-way conversation during a board meeting. So it's a nice way for folks to come and ask questions. And since it is Staff Appreciation, I also just want to acknowledge the huge impact that all staff members are making, to teachers, custodians, bus drivers, everyone. I mean, I can't list all the folks that are helping make impacts, because being a former Fort Bragg Unified School District student, at every site, I could probably tell you what room they were working in, or tell you what janitors were at that site, or tell you the nurses, or tell you the office staff. I mean, everyone is making a huge impact. And I just want to thank everyone for their dedication and to focus on kids. And issues have been hard this year, but we're going to get through them. And it's not about people. I mean, the issues will pass, and we have to make it to the other side. So I just want to make sure that everyone's realizing the impact they're making, and to put things in perspective, and that we're all going to make it just fine because we're going to work together. So the next item on the agenda is the student report. Zaid.
Thank you. Redwood Elementary, no report. Dan Gray is having their spring virtual book fair May 17th to May 28th. They are currently doing their end of the year iReady and ORR reading literature assessments. Their Dan Gray Parents Club has their last meeting of the year on June 8th at 5:30. Fort Bragg Middle School are choosing electives, or Fort Bragg Middle School students are choosing elective courses with Miss Melsom for next school year. Softball is finishing up their last game on May 18th. Fort Bragg Middle School Student Council is selling face masks at the front office for $10. Fort Bragg Middle School Parents Club meeting on June 1st at 5 p.m. 8th grade promotion is planned on June 10th at the Timberwolf Stadium at 5 p.m. Fort Bragg High School ASB is busy this month. They are putting together goodie bags for students, including virtual bingo games and hosting drive-through events to pass out their bags. They are working with VLT Senate and started planning homegoing 3 Spirit Days the last week of school. Thank you.
Thank you, Zaid. And feel free to stay as long as you'd like to the meeting, or exit whenever you need to move on. 8.3 is superintendent report.
Okay, so we're going to start out with our DLAC, and we have on the line Tina Krenoff. She's been meeting with our district English Language Advisory Committee. Tina, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Tina. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me this evening. Before I introduce our esteemed Vice President of DLAC, Veronica Baser, I'd just like to mention that I was supposed to...
Do you mean Veronica Renteria?
Yeah.
You said Baser.
Oh, that's because Zaid. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Veronica Renteria. I was supposed to give a short report on our English Learner program this evening, but I don't see it on the agenda, so I would ask permission to add it onto the DLAC report.
That's fine. Yes.
Okay.
Are you
great.
okay with that, Diana?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I'd like to introduce Veronica Renteria, who has been our incredibly valuable Vice President of DLAC this year, and has added a lot of insight and thoughtful comments and suggestions to our meetings. Veronica, are you ready?
Yeah, good evening. Yes, I think I'm ready.
Go ahead, Veronica.
Fort Bragg Unified School District English Learners Advisory Committee. Dear school board members, in accordance with the state guidelines, the functions of the District English Learners Advisory Committee, DLAC, included advising the school board regarding the needs of English learners, ELS. We appreciate the opportunity to appear before you to share our recommendations for the 2021-2022 school year. Let us first of all, thank you for your continued commitment to the English learners of our district. We are especially pleased with the following. Fbusd provides and encourages the use of tools of online communications between schools, teachers, and parents, i.e. Parent Square. The move of the Parent Square with its automatic translation feature has helped give parents a choice for means of communication. Fbusd continues to show a commitment to having bilingual aid to support our English learners in the classroom. Fbusd keeps parents constantly informed of current conditions and changes through COVID-19. Based on the comments we have received throughout the school year in presentations, parent surveys, and DLAC meetings, we would like to present to the school board the following recommendations. First of all, we are especially excited at the prospect of the school parent liaison with the strong ties to the Latinx community, which will help us meet many of our goals for the Fbusd EL program. We would like to see better ongoing communication with parents regarding students' progress, ESP, in reading and writing. 20% of parents responding to the needs assessment survey says that they do not have internet access. We recommend that the school district continues to pursue ways for parents with no internet access to have access to hotspots for online instruction. 67% of responding parents says that they do not know how to view grades, attendance online. We recommend that the school district provide weekly grades, attendance online. Weekly classes, I skip a page, for parents to connect with the school and staff and learn how to access information online. This is also an opportunity to conduct parents' information sessions and have parents connect with each other. Parents' participation on ELACs remains low. We recommend the school district continues to seek ways to recruit parents to ELAC and DLAC. This is one of the needs that could be addressed through the school parent liaison. We hope that the school district will resume providing an opportunity for 4th and 5th grade students to realize a field trip to the Ukiah campus, Mendocino College, with the objective of encourage interest in college and careers opportunities. DLAC discuss helping parents learning how to access the resources on the Fbusd website. We recommend making Spanish information more accessible and prominent. We will also like to see school sites, Facebook admins share direct links to information in English and Spanish. Based on parent requests, we would like to see the district bring an outside presenters for the following topics: health and nutrition, bullying, parent and child communication. Thank you all for allowing us the opportunity to share our recommendations with you at this time. Sincerely, DLAC members, Juliana Sanchez, Veronica Renteria, and Tkk Enrollment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Veronica. Great job.
Thank you, Veronica.
Are there any
Thank
questions for us as DLAC members?
Veronica, I would just like to thank you for the thoughtful input. I love everything that was suggested, and I know we are going to work diligently to address these. So thank you. And we're excited about the family liaison too. So that's on the board agenda tonight for action. So.
Excellent. Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, board members. So I'd like to give a very brief report on our English Learner Program this year. At the beginning of the year, we had 345 English learners enrolled in our district K-12. That is significantly down from previous years, especially at Redwood and especially in kindergarten. We reclassified 27 students, and so at this time we have 318 English learners. I would just, on a side note, in previous years we have had about 150 English learners at Redwood, and we're down to 110. So it's a significant drop. In terms of students who I thought that the board would be interested to know the percentage of students that have returned in person to school as opposed to remaining remotely. And in terms of people who chose, it seems to be about 50-50 for our English learners returning to school in person versus remaining remotely. But then there are also teachers who chose to remain completely remotely, and those students are, of course, not included in the 50-50 ratio. We also have 51 long-term English learners. That's a category that is more and more recognized by CDE and will be reflected, if it is not already, on the California dashboard. That is students in grades 6 through 12 that have been enrolled in California schools since kindergarten and have not made adequate progress to be reclassified at this time. We also have a category called at risk for long-term English learners. They have been in our school system for at least 4 years, grades 5 through 12, and are not making adequate progress to be reclassified at this time. Currently, we are conducting summative LPAC assessments in our district. We have 318 students to assess. We chose to do this assessment in person rather than remotely, because from what I could glean from my counterparts in other districts, the remote testing was just not optimal. It proved to be very complicated and difficult. So some logistics that have made this a great challenge have been that examiners are reluctant to come to school and meet with many students in person due to COVID, because what we look for usually are retired teachers who would like to come back and spend some time with children and maybe make a little extra money. So especially scheduling has also been extremely difficult because we have a lot of students that are not on campus at all. So we have to make appointments for the parents to come at a certain time. And we have to have a very tight schedule because we have a lot of students to test. And so if we tell a parent you have to be there at 1:30, if they come at 1:50, that creates all kinds of difficulties with our schedules. And then there are parents who want to change the times and so on and so forth. So scheduling has been challenging. And it has been slow moving at Redwood. We just started testing. We finished high school and middle school, and that went really well. It was very smoothly. Dana Gray went really well also. Now we started Redwood, and it's a little slower in going. But to be positive, high school, middle school, and Dana Gray are all done in terms of summative LPAC testing. So moving on to English language development, our classes for our English learners. As you can imagine, it has been an especially difficult year for English learners who depend on social interaction and classroom engagement to develop their English language abilities and skills and acquirement. Teachers have been amazing in doing everything they can to deliver English language development strategies and materials and instruction to our English learners. But learning remotely a different language is very, very difficult. They don't get enough language practice. Many of our students are camera shy, and that's due to a variety of reasons. And some of them are just environmental. They have many siblings in the home, and it's noisy. And we also have family Wi-Fi problems in many of our families. One very wonderful thing that happened this year was that we had a bilingual IT room. Our incredible instructional bilingual aides, Maria Hernandez and Isabel Hernandez, have just been beyond fantastic. They have been in that room every day, and they have had 7 English learner students in their classroom that we could not reach if it hadn't been for that room. They didn't have Wi-Fi connections. They didn't have the parents who could help them in any way, shape, or form. So we have been incredibly fortunate in having this room and these students. And I just want to thank Fort Bragg Unified School District for providing that for these students. I know the teachers and the parents say the same thing. In fact, when there came a choice to going back in person on a hybrid schedule, all the parents in the bilingual IT room said, no, no. They're staying with Maria and Isabel. This is working great. So we're really pleased with that. In closing, I just want to say that my hopes for next year, it will be my 2nd year in this district EL coordinator position, is that it'll be a year of great growth for our English learners and our English learner development program. I think the addition of a liaison person or persons, if that happens, will be an incredible asset to the district. It will help us with parent involvement, parent engagement, and parent education. I see great things in the future with the addition of these positions. And I think we will next year begin to teach our English learners with a greater sense of urgency because we know what they lost this year. We really know. And in some positive things, ending on a positive note, we have adopted an ELD curriculum at the high school, so we will be able to add some instruction to our high school students that are still English learners. We have adopted an intervention program, K8, which is called LLI, and Carolyn Clarini could fill you in further on that. But it's an intervention curriculum with a very strong ELD component, and we look forward to that being part of our intervention program, K8, next year. So I'm very positive about next year, and I can't wait to get started. Thank you very much for giving me the time.
Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions before Tina
disappears?
Yes, exactly. Scott?
Just really quick, both in the letter and in your recent report, you talked about the access of Wi-Fi for families. And I just want to reiterate, one, obviously, if your group have any ideas of how we can provide that access, would be great. But also, as we move forward, I would, again, I know I've said it in prior meetings, love to see areas in town or somewhere where kids that needed access could get that access. I know we have computer rooms and all that, but the report kind of reiterated the need and the importance of it, and I just wanted to reiterate that reiteration.
Thank you. I appreciate that comment. Of course, we are all here tonight hoping that next year we will not need all that internet access.
Yeah. Thank you. So the next item is Tkk enrollment update.
So as of today, we have 83 students enrolled for kindergarten and 13 for TK for next year. So the numbers that you have in your packet were as of Monday. So we did have 3 more kids enroll for kindergarten for next year. So right now our numbers look a little low. I'm hoping that folks, if you have children out there who are 5 years old before September, by September 1, you're eligible for kindergarten. And for us, it's really important that we know who's out there for registration because we determine staffing based on these numbers. It's really difficult when we have 40 or 50 kids enroll on the first day of school because we don't have the staffing planned at that point. So it's important for our folks out there, if you have children of kindergarten age and you haven't enrolled, please take a moment to do that so that we can anticipate space for your child. And also the same for TK. TK is transitional kindergarten. That is a program that helps our kids get ready for kindergarten. All children who turn 5 between September 2 and December 2 are eligible for TK. So if you have a kiddo who turns 5, let's say in November, then they're eligible for TK and you can enroll them right now. So please, if you have children of TK or kindergarten level, please call Redwood Elementary 961-2860 and talk about enrolling your kids for kindergarten or transitional kindergarten for the August 2021 semester.
Great. Kathy?
Do you have any comparison on what numbers we normally have by now?
Typically by now, believe it or not, it's right in the 80s. So we're kind of on par. It'll ramp up probably. I'm hoping that we get more in June and July. It's difficult to plan if we go into June and July and our numbers aren't secure. It makes it really difficult if it all comes in at the last minute because we simply won't have the staffing, and you don't just create an additional kindergarten room from thin air. It doesn't work that way. So that's why I'm concerned at this point. The other thing that has me concerned is I don't know how many families are concerned about COVID and if that's preventing them from registering and if they're going to wait to see what the vaccine situation allows as far as child vaccinations. So I'm concerned a little bit more than in previous years only because we have this looming pandemic in this weird way. So, but again, if we have people out there who have kindergarten age children and you're considering it, please just enroll them because the fact of the matter is we cannot create a classroom overnight. It's too difficult. And the biggest hurdle is really about hiring a credentialed teacher if needed.
And I just want to mention that I think families now, what I'm running into, especially for elementary school level, is that their driver maybe to school might be the worker of the family, or they have more than one child at each site. And so a half day instruction is very difficult. So I think families probably are holding off their TK kindergartners, not knowing if it's going to be a full day next year or if it's in person 5 days a week. Because
great question. Great comment, Diana. Thank you. So right now we are telling all of our administrators and we're telling our families plan for a full return. There is nothing that I have heard from any part of the state level that has indicated that we are going to go back to any kind of a reduced day or a hybrid model. So with that, I am planning for a full bore return. Kids in classrooms. The masking is questionable, especially after today, what happened with the CDC and their announcement about masking. So that is going to continue to evolve. I do believe very seriously that we are going to have a full return in August. So what does that mean for transitional kindergarten? It means we return to a half day. Transitional kindergarten has typically gone from 8:20, I believe, till noon. So I would anticipate that those times will remain. And then with kindergarten, we go the full day with kindergarten. Our kindergarten students do go part of the day for the first few weeks, just so that we can make sure that our classes are placed appropriately. We can do some assessment with the kids so we know where they're at. And it's a long day for our kiddos who've never had that long day. So it transitions them right into a longer day. And then after Labor Day, boom, we begin. They are up and running. So that's what everyone should be planning for right now. That's what we're looking at.
Great. Okay, thank you for the report. The next item is graduation and promotion events update.
So in your packet, you'll see that we listed all of the graduation and promotion activities. So at your fingertips, you could see where these events are. They should be on our website and calendars. So just to give you the update, alternative education will be graduating their seniors, the class of 2021 at Piver Field. And that's the baseball field right outside of Alternative Ed's site. That will begin at 5 o'clock. And then Fort Bragg Middle School will have a promotion ceremony in Timberwolf Stadium. The hot topic has been how many tickets, how many tickets, how many tickets. We are planning for 6 tickets per 8th grader. And I've already had several parents email and say, what are the odds? What are the odds of getting more tickets? Not good. So everyone can count on their 6 tickets. Unfortunately, that's all we can do because of spacing. We are working on getting that live streamed So if you can't be there in person, you can watch it on our Fbusd television channel. Thank you, Nathan Alexander. And then our high school is doing two things. They are starting with the parade at the Coastal Trail like it was last year, and they will be traveling north on Main Street. They'll turn right on Oak Street, head east on Oak until they get to Dana, turn right on Dana Street, head south on Dana, and then make their entrance into the stadium. The students will line up and then walk in as they've traditionally done. And the commencement ceremony will be outdoors in the stadium. We will also live stream that event, so folks who can't attend will be able to watch it. I want to just reiterate to everyone that if you are one of the golden ticket holders and you have a ticket, we are requiring masking, even though it is outdoors. We just want folks to stay safe. We'll have masks available at the gate. CDC did make an announcement today about masking. If you're vaccinated, for right now, the plan is that if you are going to come into the ceremony and watch, you will need to be masked. So please cooperate with us so that we can keep everyone safe and not have any worries about making this ceremony really about the graduates. So on that note, we've got the parade starting at 4:00 for our Fort Bragg High School seniors, and the commencement ceremony starting in Timberwolf Stadium at 5 p.m. So far, every year for the last 10 years, we have been able to start promptly on time at 5 p.m. And I just want to reiterate that that's going to be the goal again. So if you are planning to attend, be on time or be willing to be walking in when the ceremony has begun. So questions for me on any of that? Okay. And yes, I know that there's going to be a question. We will have people at the gates only admitting with ticket only. And that's because we have to abide by the health orders. So please be patient with us and please honor what we're trying to do to provide these ceremonies in a setting so that our kids can have an outdoor graduation. Thank you.
Thank you for the update. The next item is the county investment report. Wendy, will you be sharing?
Yeah, there's you have the report in your packet. It basically just outlines and demonstrates that the county is investing all of the funds from all of the school districts appropriately and pooled appropriately, and where they stand at this point. So there's not much to report on. It's just something that we share with you so that you have that information.
Great. Did anyone have any questions about the quarterly report? Thank you for providing the report. The next item on the superintendent's report is Special Education Local Plan Areas Selpa report. I believe we have Ms. Carini.
You do. Hi, everybody. So I'm here tonight to report on special education delivery over the past year and looking forward into next year. I have to open up by sharing how incredibly proud I am of our special education team. And that includes our teachers, our instructional aides, the itinerants, our school psychologists, the entire team that works with our kids have really shown a level of dedication and commitment to our students and our families that is phenomenal. Looking back into last year when we shut down, they had to transition and they had to move to an online format for students that have the most significant needs. And some of these kids struggled, and they didn't struggle because of because of a connectivity issue. They struggled because their disabilities get in the way of them being able to access online learning. So the team and I researched online platforms, and we brought in Unique Learning, TeachTown, Seesaw, Sunday Online, and Star Online Learning System. They had to learn those new systems at the same time while starting to learn Google Classroom and also holding what we call individual education plan meetings. For any student in special education, they have an individualized education plan. So they had to learn that, do that as well. They moved into this year and innovated the entire way. So this team has discovered that working with small groups for like our resource students with specific learning disabilities were having trouble accessing learning in small groups. They moved their schedules to a one-to-one format. Some of our preschool special education students can't access online learning. So our teachers started working closely with families, and we strengthened the commitment and the connection between the home environment and school environment. We've made great strides. At the same time, we really struggled. So by the end of October, we came out with small cohort guidance that allowed us to serve special education students on our campuses. So our teachers then transitioned and brought students to the campuses and started providing in-person services at the same time while providing distance learning and continuing to consult with families. They really stepped up and delivered incredible services to our families. As I'm looking at where we're headed for next year, they haven't waived any part of the federal law that oversees special education. That's the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. That has not been waived. And so we had a legal obligation to make sure we can continue to provide those services and also to look at any kind of learning loss as a result of the closure and not being able to provide services. So as we look into next year, we're looking at holding meetings and talking to families about where their students are, whether they made progress on goals, and providing services to meet any shortcoming we had during the closure. As we look into next year, we've brought in, Tina mentioned it, Leveled Literacy Intervention. That's an incredible program that will be in every resource room, K through 12. And that will help us bring our students back up to reading level. We're also bringing in Beyond Student Study Team, SST, Beyond SST. And we're doing that so we can work with students before they get to an assessment plan for special education to make sure that the interventions are strong and also make sure that we're tracking them as they move through the process. So we have to assess, we'll have that data and that information as we move the kids over to an IEP if we need to, an individualized education plan. So it's been a tremendous year. There's been some heavy lifting. I know that our kids have struggled for the great part, but we've got them back on campuses now. And our teams have really gone above and beyond.
Great. Thank you so much for reporting. I just had a question. Are all students, did they start out just doing distant learning and then slowly going back by October? Did you have 50% come on campus or 100%?
No, I don't think it was 50%, Diana. I think it was a lot lower than that. The families are still hesitant. So if we had a special day class for students that have more severe disabilities, if we had 10 kids, we might have been serving 4 to 5 in person. And then they were doing it. But in addition to that, even if we were providing in-person services, they continued consult with the families. They continued remote learning. So we really try to deliver the services we have in the individualized education plans as fully as possible. And that was the mandate. We were trying to make the minutes, even though we were closed, and make sure they got all the services. And we used TinyEye. That I forgot to mention that. We used TinyEye to make sure that our speech and language services were delivered remotely. So the kids were continuing to get services.
Great. Does anyone have any questions for Carolyn Carini? Thank you so much for coming tonight to share with us the success and the hurdles that you've accomplished.
They're a phenomenal team. Well, if you don't have any more questions for me, I will take
Enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. So summer schools is the last item on superintendent report.
So this is exciting. Summer school will begin on June 16th and end on July 14th. We will be releasing the summer school catalog tomorrow. I will share my screen to give you a quick little preview of what parents will see. Registration forms have been sent to all the sites. They are color coordinated by age group so that we can move the paper around once we get it back. So I would encourage families, if you would like your children to be enrolled in summer school, registration will open tomorrow, May 14th. We are going to close registration on May 26th. It is a very short window. I will be putting out a message in Parent Square tomorrow morning, bright and early. Summer school registration opens today. And what we will do is we have the catalog. The catalog is organized by classes. So you're going to fill out your registration form and put the class number that you would like your kiddo enrolled in. So we'll show you this. So like, for instance, this first class, It only meets for 10 days, so we have some options here for families. We also have the number of students, the maximum number of students for the class. This particular class, in class 1, it's Ms. Daniels and Ms. Meyer-Lance who will be teaching, so they'll each have a class of 20, if that makes sense, and they'll be switching midday so they can each see those kids. So that's why this has a maximum of 40. Then you have the second class that has a total of 3 teachers teaching it. So that's why their maximum is 60. But it's still class 2, and you'll rotate through all 3 teachers. Let's see, class 3 has 2 teachers in it, which is why it's 40. Class 4 is not really a class that you're going to be enrolled in, but you can. It's for Ms. Whipple. She'll be meeting with kids only for a half hour a day because that's how the LOI program works. Mr. McGee is doing a STEM program. He's by himself, so that's why his class is at 20. But please note that, like, Mr. McGee's class is only 15 days. He's not available the first 5. Then we have Mr. Nifong doing a full 20 days by himself. That's why he's at 20. And then some of this, some of that. We have 4 teachers teaming up at Dana Gray. That's why there's 80 there. Reading intervention for Ms. McGee, again, that'll be part of the program. That's the LLI program, so it may be only students will be with her for 30 minutes a day. That's how the program works. We've got an outdoor education class by Ms. Galliani at the middle school. We have Ms. Gray, Amanda Gray, who will be doing a little bit of everything for her middle school class. Ms. Galliani's class is only 10 days. Ms. Gray is here for the full 20 days. This is exciting for us. Ms. Hawk, our fearless math teacher at Fort Bragg Middle School, will be doing an accelerated geometry class. So if you have a current 8th grader, typically in 8th grade, we have an Algebra 1 class so that students can go into geometry. Rather than doing an accelerated algebra class, the math department got together and said, Becky, it makes more sense to do an accelerated geometry class so that kids get that foundational algebra over the full year. And we can go through geometry a little bit more quickly. So she is going to run a 29-day, 6-week intensive accelerated geometry class for kids who would like to get through a year of math quickly. But then what that does for them as a freshman, it means they'll be enrolled in Algebra 1, but their sophomore year, they'll go to Algebra 2. Their junior year, they'll be in statistics, and their senior year, they can do calculus. So it'll allow them to do that full math repertoire that we offer at Fort Bragg High School. So that'll be a fun class. And then right next door to her, we're going to have Ms. Knott and Ms. Cook, Amanda Cook. We have so many spellings, different pronunciations of the same spelled last name. Sorry, Amanda Cook. They will be teaching an algebra readiness class. There's only 20 students in here because both of them are alternating when they teach. So they're not teaching at the same time, which is why there's a 20 limit on this. But it's for students who need some help with algebra readiness. It's really to get their math skills up. So if you have an 8th grader who you don't think is really quite ready for Algebra 1, this would be a good class to enroll them in. If you have a current student who's in algebra who has really struggled with it, this would be another great class for them to take. Then we have our wonderful visual arts teacher, Ms. Vasquez, who will be doing a 10-day art class. And then we have preparing for college applications, which I'm excited about. Amy Sariski is doing these little 3- and 5-day workshops. Seniors don't want to come to summer school. We get it. So we wanted to put it out there so that she could work on college applications, their personal essays, doing little things to help them get ready for that fall application season. But in a 3-day stint, if kids are worried about it, there are some 5-day sessions. So incoming seniors, current juniors could enroll in these classes based on their vacation times with their families and just do small chunks, but they can get their personal essay done, get their resumes in line, really work on getting their college application together. They could start looking at some of Kathy helped me out here. I'm losing it already. The Common App, that's it. I didn't need your help. Can look at the Common App requirements for their application for private colleges. So I'm excited. I hope we get some kids in these. Mr. Gary Lewis will be running the credit recovery program for the high school and the alt ed. And then Mr. Kubo and Mr. Anderson have a 15-day course that is incredibly ambitious. You can earn 5 PE credits if you are going into high school and want to get rid of some PE credits. This is not for the faint heart. Let me just be very clear. Mr. Kubo and Mr. Anderson are going to be doing some really personal training, doing hikes, doing some coastal cleanup. So 4 hours for 15 days comes out to 60 hours. We usually equate 1 credit to 12 to 15 hours. So 12 times 5 is 60, and that's how we're getting the 5 credits in. Mr. Kubo is a credentialed PE teacher, so we can offer 5 credits of PE. It's very exciting. We will see which 20 people sign up for that. So this is the catalog that's coming out tomorrow that will be released. Registration begins tomorrow. It's very exciting. And in order for a class to fly, we have a 5 student minimum. So questions on summer school?
I just think, I just have a comment. I think it's wonderful. It's amazing to have this opportunity for any student. So the first stab at it's wonderful because most districts are getting the scratching and then hope to bolster it for the following year. So I hope it's something that we can continue, but I'm really impressed with the choices and for all ages. So I wish I could sign up for a couple of those classes. So thank you for all those teachers that are raising their hand. How fun to be with kids.
And just so you know, we have budgeted so that we can do this kind of summer school again next summer.
That's amazing. Because we definitely, Scott.
So 2 questions. First is, I know you're releasing the catalog tomorrow. Just a question of how much effort will there be to make sure it gets out as far as it can? And 2, do you think opening registration and launching the catalog in the same day is a good idea? I just don't want the most popular ones to fill up in a day before people have a chance to look at it.
So this is not a first come, first serve. Okay, so all of the applications will be accepted within the timeline. And if we receive more children than we have capacity for, then we register by priority. And that priority comes down to migrant, foster homeless, EL, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and then academic need. So those priorities will go first. So this is not a first come, first serve.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that, because that could be, we don't need people rushing around, but we also need people to stay within the registration period so that they have an opportunity to apply.
So when we send out the Parent Square message, I'll make sure it's clear that that registration will be open for this time. This is not first come, first serve. If we have more students enrolling than our capacity allows, we will be accepting students based on our priority list.
And who determines the priority list? Like those groups you just mentioned, is that a law? Is that like a state law, or how did you come up with that?
So we came up with it because this is fun. You want to answer that, Wendy?
Well, the priority for the funding that we're using is to address the needs of our unduplicated count in particular. So that's why that's the priority group.
And also our migrant funds are being used to fund summer school. So that's why they're the priority group. So
I only ask because if some kids don't get in, they'll understand why. This is where the funding comes from and all that. So I just wanted to ask.
Great question. Thank you.
Any other questions on summer school? Okay, thank you for your report. It was thorough and included some highlights. I think there's some really good planning going on for summer and for next year. So thank you everyone for contributing to the superintendent report this evening. So the next item on the agenda is the California Schools Employee Association, also known as CSEA report. Is there a report?
We have no report from CSEA at this time. Okay,
no report. And then the next item on the agenda is 8.5, the Fort Bragg District Teachers Association, also known as FBDTA report. Is there a report this evening?
We have no report from FBDTA at this time.
Okay. And so the next item on the agenda is approval of the consent items. These are items that are routine and non-controversial, and items can be passed in one motion without discussion. Do we have anything to pull, or do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any opposed? All in favor? Okay, 5 approved, so moved. The consent agenda is approved 5-0. The next item on the board action is 10.1, which is the hybrid learning plan for grades preschool through 6th grade. So we will give Superintendent Walker an opportunity to let us know if there are any changes with the tier status and any upcoming changes or comments on hybrid learning plan for that age group.
So we continue to be in hybrid learning. We've made the commitment to our community that this would remain on every regular board meeting agenda until we are back to students in classrooms full time. At this time, there's no change. We are in the yellow tier. I'm excited to report that we have our Redwood students back to 4 days a week, our Dana Gray students back to 4 days a week, middle school and high school are back 4 days a week. And what I mean by that is that our in-person students are attending now Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. There's been a question, Becky, why not just go 5? Let's just do it. I am 100% with everybody who says that. The difficulty is we still have a large number of students on distance learning. So Wednesday is really an important day for our teachers to make sure that they are connecting with all of our kids. So for right now, through the end of the school year, bar some unforeseen miracle, I anticipate that we are going to continue in this model until we get to June 11th. And then again, the goal is when we return in August, we will return 5 days a week, full days, with everyone there. I've said from the beginning that I think we're still going to have some kind of a masking requirement, but after CDC's announcement today, I'm not sure what to expect. But if we are able to come back 5 days a week and we have to still be masked, I will take it. I just want our kids back. So for right now, I have nothing to give you on the hybrid learning plan for preschool through grade 6. Other than thank you, Redwood, Dana Gray, we are back 4 days a week. Thank you, Fort Bragg Middle School. We are back 4 days a week. Thank you, Fort Bragg High School and Alt-Ed. Alt-Ed has been back 4 days a week for a while. They've got a small group and they've been doing it. So thank you, Alt-Ed. So I have nothing for you at this time. So I believe the appropriate action is to table it.
That's right. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? No. So that was the only thing that came to my attention was a parent, and maybe we can get some clarification on why the release time changed at Redwood to 11:45, and then just that the families, the one particular, I've met another mom that has 4 kids at each site, and she just doesn't have, it just ended up being, she couldn't pencil out having them go 4 days a week when it's half day. She just was looking for the full day instruction. So she just chose to keep her kids at home for distant learning. It wasn't a health or safety issue. So I think there are a fair amount of families just, chomping at the bit to go 5 days a week full time. So I think our numbers maybe will improve knowing that the plan is to go 5 days. So that was the only concern I had heard.
So I have to say, first off, that this has been hard on all of us. There is not one person that I can find who says, oh, this COVID plan of school, love it, do it again. I have found no one, and not even including myself. So this whole thing has been a huge, hard burden on everyone. There is not one group who has come out of this smelling lovely. Our teachers are being asked to teach in person and online at the same time. As you go up in the age groups, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more manageable. Not fun. Let's be really clear. Not easy. A little bit more manageable. Imagine kindergarten, first grade, 5, 6, 7-year-olds trying to have them online and in person at the same time. The in-person kids require your attention. They're right there, right in front of you. And then you have people in the back of your screen, the little ones, crying out for help. So it's been difficult trying to juggle that. And our teachers have done a great job trying to balance it all. Why the change of that 15 minutes? That 15 minutes, we made that change so that we could provide a little bit more online time for our kiddos. We had to make a distinction between in-person learning and online learning because it's too difficult for our teachers to navigate right now. It's almost impossible, especially for the littles. So that 15-minute change was to allow some time to have more online time for the kids, but to make the in-person time so that our teachers weren't going back and forth. And so that's why the 15 minutes. I can appreciate every parent who says, this is too hard. Half day is too hard. I have to work. Totally get it. Again, this is not the way we've intended to have school. We have been holding this together by the paper clips and Scotch tape because we just have to. We don't have many other choices right now. So again, the goal is that when we return in August, we will be full bore, 5 days a week, 8:20 to 2:30 at Redwood, full days at Dana Gray, full days at middle school, full days at high school. So thank you to all of our families who have been patient. Thank you to all our families who call me and have really expressed their concern and vented. And I've tried to share our why as much as possible. This has not been easy. And I just appreciate everyone's patience. And I get it. I talked to one parent this week, and her response was, I'm over it, Becky. I'm with you. I'm over it too. So I know people are kind of hitting a wall. So again, the goal is to get back full time beginning in August.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. I agree with you. It's not easy for anyone. And I want to thank the students too, because I can't imagine this being their mode of instruction. And this is their childhood. And this is what they have to deal with along with their families or whoever's their teacher aide at home, but in person. But there's been no directive on how you have to manage that. That's the other thing. Teachers have full reign of how they want to have their classrooms. And so I appreciate that as well. I don't think there's anyone saying you have to do it this way, but you have your hours. So I thank everyone for trying to hold it together. And we will table this to the next meeting, which is June 17th, this 10.1, since there is no action. And moving on to 10.2, hybrid learning plan for grades 7 through 12.
And basically what I just reported on, middle school and high school are back to 4 days. I anticipate we're going to continue in this model through the end of the school year. Wednesdays continue to be hugely important. And just so you know, President Paley, there is no public comment. I've been checking.
Thank you for checking in on that. So does anyone have any questions or comments on this age group? Otherwise, 10.2 will be tabled as well to the next meeting of June 17th. Okay, seeing none. It'll be tabled to June 17th. The next item on the agenda is 10.3, transition planning.
Transportation.
Oh, transportation, sorry. Transition. I'm transitioning already.
So we are limiting transportation to students who live north of Pudding Creek Bridge and south of Noyo Bridge. We are also limiting transportation for students who live, I believe it's beyond, and I'll have to check with Barry, but there's a threshold for Sherwood Road. So our transportation is limited in that area. What we would like to do is we would like to transport Redwood students only in town after school. We know that we have many kiddos who have in-town childcare. The reason we can pull this off is because we believe that the time from when you pick up Redwood to when the middle school gets out, if we can lengthen that, then what happens is that the bus drivers can take more kids on the bus and they can drop off the in-town before they even get to the middle school. So it will allow us to get our kindergartners, our first graders, our littles to their in-town childcare or to their in-town homes prior to us having to pick up the middle school. So I think this is something that our families do need. We will not be offering in-town transportation in the morning, even to our littles, but we will. I would like to ask for your approval to have in-town transportation for our Redwood kids only when we return in August. With the distancing, because we would be taking more kids on when we pick up Redwood, the kids would be dropped off before you pick up the middle school. So the middle school won't even know that they were there.
So Kathy, you have a question?
It says on the cover sheet that, unless I'm in the wrong one, that there's no funding. I would think there has to be fuel costs incurred. I mean, I know the bus driver's still on the bus, whether they're sitting in front of Dana Gray waiting or if they're driving, but.
Good point. There will be some fuel for the in-town, but because we're using all of our buses, they're probably only going to go to 1 or 2 spots each. And the majority of them may actually be not too much of a diversion from getting to the middle school. So they all don't go to all the spots, right? They each take 1 or 2 spots. So we don't anticipate a huge impact to the budget for that additional driving. But good call.
Mary.
I don't have a question. I just have a comment that I think it's a really great idea. I don't think we want really young children having to walk home, and it's been tough enough. And especially TK will be getting out early and parents might be at work. So I think it's a really good idea to do that.
So let me clarify, TK is not eligible for transportation.
Oh, they're not. Just kindergarten, first and second.
Correct.
Okay. I still think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I just have a clarifying question. This is adding on top of, like you said, out of town, out of the city limits. Those kids are still getting bused one way, just
no.
going home.
So anybody who lives outside of the city limits, anyone living north of Pudding Creek, south of Noyo, will have transportation. They're transportation eligible. They're eligible for transportation in the morning and after school. Okay. If you live in town, then we're not doing in-town transportation. So with our littles though, our kids at Redwood, after school only, if there is an in-town drop-off, what I'm recommending to you is that our school bus drivers do that in-town drop-off after school only for the Redwood kiddos.
Okay, very good. Thank you for clarifying that. And I agree with it as well. And I would like to review it. I mean, not that we'd be able to do anything, but I'd be really curious. In the past, it was always really important to get kids to school. So if there's a barrier of kids having attendance, if this affects attendance, because, we're going to eventually be accountable for our ADA, I'd like to just check in and make sure that we're not having, that we're having late kids or kids aren't attending because there's no transportation in the morning for like the little kids. Anyway, but is there a motion to approve? There are no other questions and there's no public comment?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Second, okay. And do we have any public comment on this item? Okay. So roll call, please.
So Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
And Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Okay, motion carried.
Thank you. So the next item is 10.4, start times for 2021-22 school year.
So we looked at these start times at the last board meeting and we had them up for discussion. We have no public comment on them. We have reviewed this with our administrative council and our principals to ensure that this is something that would work. I'm happy with the start times as they're listed. The major change really is for Bragg Middle School, and there's a 5-minute change for Dana Gray. These start times, I truly believe for our middle school kids, the later time is going to be better. All of our high school students have asked me, Mrs. Walker, can we start at 9, please, please? And in truth, I would love to start our high school at 9, but when I bring up the issues that go with it, okay, if we start at 9, then we're going to be ending at 4:15. Are you okay with that? What? And that's usually the comment that I get when I bring that up. And that's that is the honest truth. If we start at 9, we'd have to end at 4:15 in order to maintain our minutes and our early release days. So that's the issue right there. So can we start at 9? We can do anything. But then the other issue is with athletics. So I know we've talked about this ad nauseum, but I just want to bring it back to the why the high schools continues to have this day. It's really because for our kiddos who are in athletics, our students, and 60% of Fort Bragg High School at some time or another are one or more seasons of athletics. They lose a lot of class time when they travel. So we have the high school remaining at the time that they were previous. Redwood is at their time that they were previous. Dana Gray, we adjusted by 5 minutes to help accommodate the bus schedule from getting to the middle school to Dana Gray, which is why you see that change. And then alternative ed has not changed. So these are the times presented to you. With this approval, if you choose to approve this, this is the reason we are going to be able to take our Redwood kids to in-town drop-off after school, because there's literally 30 minutes between the time the kiddos get out at Redwood to the time the buses have to be at the middle school. And luckily we live in a little town, so in-town drop-off, it's not going to take a half an hour. And the kids won't be on the bus that long. So I think this is a good move. I think this meets the needs of our kids, and I'm excited for the times. It actually coordinates quite well on so many levels.
Are there any clarifying questions or discussion on 10.4? Kathy?
I don't mean to bring it up again. I brought it up last month, but I just want to make sure that the staff has a plan to communicate with parents during registration about the difference between middle school and high school. So if I look at it, I guess, because I'm a high school and a middle school parent. So if I'm dropping off, without having to sit in a car in front of one of the schools, can I drop, what time will there be the doors open for those students, or even parents that have somebody at Redwood right? Because if Redwood.
Yeah, there's a 30-minute between Redwood and Dana Gray.
Yeah, so it's high school is different from except Redwood. So if you've got a Redwood and a high school, it's not so bad. But anyway, please just consider that for families. I just kind of advocate for.
No, good comment. Good comment. Thank you.
And so that when I was thinking about this, a few moms that have 4 kids, that was my concern to know when they could drop off, but also if we could review this, how this is going. I know you probably can't change it mid-year, but if it correlates, even though we're a really small town, if you've ever tried to get to agenda setting or tried to get up to the Dana Gray if everyone's getting carred in the morning, it does create a lot of traffic. So theoretically, a Redwood kid or middle school kid could be late after you're dropping off a Redwood child if you had a Redwood and a middle school child. So hopefully that won't be, there's only so many routes to kind of divert the congestion. So I'm hoping that it'll work out, because that's cutting it kind of close, the 20 to 30. But I like the idea of being able to get the little kids home in the afternoon. So is there a motion to approve or further discussion? Kathy?
I'll move to approve 10.4, the start times for 21-22.
No second.
Okay, thank you. Roll call.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
And President Paoli?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. So 10.5 is the next action item, bilingual family liaison job description.
So we have talked about this position. This came about from LCAP input in LCAP meetings. I'm excited about this position. We were able to look at job descriptions from Ukiah and from Anderson Valley. They both have these positions in their district. So we began with their model, and then also Konocti has this position. So we took those job descriptions, we looked at what they did, we came up with a draft, we sent it to CSEA, and I just received word that they did approve it. So we've have CSEA's approval on this. The wonderful thing about this job is we're looking at it being a 202-day position in a classified position, so that this person could be available to families prior to registration and also be available after school, especially during our migrant summer school program. So I think this has huge potential. We're looking at this position being in range K. And the reason for that is we are requiring that this person is bilingual. So rather than having a bilingual stipend, It really is part of the job description, and we're going to be looking at things like having some kind of a bilingual assessment, so we can make sure that whoever is in this position has the appropriate skill set to communicate both verbally and written in English and in Spanish. This, you see all the list of duties that we hope this person to have. What is wonderful, I believe, is that we really want to have two positions. And I know people have asked, well, Becky, how are you going to continue funding this? We're putting this in supplemental and concentration. This is not COVID relief funds. Mm-hmm. And so we're looking at funding this in perpetuity. So through our supplemental and concentration, this will be two new positions in the district. One position will take care of our Redwood and our middle school kiddos, our Redwood middle school families, and one will take care of Dana Gray in the high school. Now, I know some people are saying, well, what if a family has both Redwood and Dana Gray? You're going to make them work with two different people? No. We're going to work that out with the liaisons. We'll make sure that we get our families covered so it's not too confusing. But the idea behind it is to try and split up some of the wealth, because Dana Gray and Redwood have so many more needs than the middle school and the high school. So that's why we have it separated in that way. But again, very excited about it. I don't know if anyone has questions for me about this, but this has been approved through CSEA.
Okay. Kathy.
Is there a way to include NOYO in that?
Oh, absolutely. That's part of the high school age.
Okay. But they do have, but okay, fine.
They have a few middle school. You're absolutely correct. I think what we'll do is we'll just make sure that we cater to the families. If they feel more comfortable with the middle school liaison, we can do that. And that's the beautiful thing of having two people, is that we can really work together with those two people to make sure that they're helping our families, regardless of who gets whom.
Right. Mary?
So will these people be consulting with Tina to find out about family needs and so forth?
So believe it or not, Tina is going to be working with them, and they're going to be a team. We're asking our principals as much as possible to provide some office space. Redwood is really tight, especially with construction. So we might have some office space. It might have to be over in the district office somewhere for this person, or just even a little tiny desk or space over at Redwood. We're not sure about that. Dana Gray will have a space. Middle school, high school, we're going to have spaces. Alt Ed, Alt Ed is Alt Ed. You walk in and it's a whole space. It might be just them working at the table in the front office. So we'll figure out those pieces. They may share the office with the SRO, but our family liaisons won't be on one site all the time. They'll be moving around, and we'll make sure that we work out the kinks to finding them homes and spaces where they can work that's appropriate. We may be offering classes at different sites just because we may have more room. So for instance, we may have more real estate at Dana Gray to have a classroom ready. So we may be offering some family classes there instead of at Redwood, because we don't have as much space at Redwood. The same thing for the high school and the middle school. So I'm excited for the prospect and what we can offer our families. And I think this is going to go really far in helping us engage our Hispanic families and giving them some comfort in just navigating our school system.
I agree. For sure, it's going to meet a lot of the needs that were requested during our DLAC report. I think all of their needs are pretty. It seems like something that we could accomplish with these two positions. So that's really exciting. Have we had a liaison before? And we haven't, not officially.
No. And Tina's back. Tina, good time to jump in.
I've been listening and making dinner at the same time. So this will be an incredibly valuable position for us. We need a person who is cemented in the Latinx community, who can really reach these parents that would like to be involved, but have been hesitant to for a variety of reasons. This will go a long ways towards creating parent involvement, parent engagement. We will provide parent education for the needs that they expressed in the survey. that we provided, and it will ultimately lead to increased student engagement and student achievement. I am incredibly excited about this position, and I will work with whoever we hire throughout the summer to set up a system and now accountability and a schedule that will work and benefit all our families and all our students. I'm just thrilled.
Great. Thank you so much for adding. And thank you for all your work this year, because I felt like we had a lot of good input during the LCAP and the DLAC meetings virtually. So that was really nice to be able to hear from the parents. They had some great ideas. So this liaison will continue that conversation that we all shared during those meetings. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that, because I think this was a really productive year for our DLAC. We had some really engaged parents, and it was wonderful to hear their ideas and their input. So thank you for that.
Great. Thank you. May I have a motion or further discussion from the board on 10.5? Mary?
I'll move to approve item 10.5, the bilingual family liaison job description.
And a second?
I'll second.
Scott? Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
And President Paoli?
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just to let the board know, we will post this position tomorrow. Very exciting. Thank you.
I'm very grateful to the board. Thank you so much for adding to our program for our English learners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tina.
Thank you. So 10.6 is the next item, the 2021-24 Triennial Plan for Expelled Pupils in Mendocino County.
So we do this every 3 years. The last time we did it is 3 years ago. And I went through the Triennial Plan with Kim Kern, who is the Associate Superintendent, Curriculum Instruction at Mendocino County Office of Education. So she and I went through this. There were a few changes that we had made as far as for Shelter Cove, it was like grades 3 through 8, and we changed it to grades 5 through 8. So we made it a little bit more realistic. And so this is our boilerplate plan that we've had ongoing for probably the last 10 years since Shelter Cove and Lighthouse have been in existence. So there's nothing new. There's nothing that's other than that change to Shelter Cove. There are no big changes to this.
Okay. Is there any clarifying questions from the board or public input?
We have no public comment.
Okay. So does someone want to make a motion if there are no further questions?
I'll make a motion. We approve item number 10.6, the 2021 through 24 Triennial Plan for Expelled Pupils in Mendocino County.
In a second?
Oh, go ahead, Kathy.
Kathy?
All seconds.
Roll call, please.
Our roll call, Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
President Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Great. Moving on to the next item, 10.7 is Board Policy 6146.1, update high school graduation requirements.
So just for clarifying, we follow the California standards for the California requirements for a high school diploma, and our standards at Fort Bragg High School and at Alternative Education for Noyo High School, Lighthouse Community Day School all exceed the California standards for a high school diploma. So one of the things that we look at in our board policy is how we can address some of those standards that exceed the California requirements. So one of those is math. We require a 3-year math requirement for a high school diploma. The state of California requires 2. What we've done in the past is we had woodshop count as a 3rd year of math if you got to the advanced level, because the rationale behind it was once you reach that 3rd level of woodshop, you would be using math on a regular basis. So that would then suffice for a 3rd year of a math class. We no longer have a woodshop class, so we need to amend our board policy to include other things. And so we wanted to include our CTE pathways. And the reason we wanted to include our CTE pathways is because the final year of that completer class for the pathway really does involve a lot of mathematics. So the 3 pathways that we're looking at and including to suffice for that 3rd year of math, we're looking at culinary, and our own Mary Mackel can tell you that if math isn't calculated correctly, the recipes could be pretty ugly. So there is math involved in our cooking. Also, the second class is our ag mechanics and our ag woodshop class, that the completers of those also receive credit for that 3rd year of math. And then the last one is the information technology computer design course. So, information communication technology. Mary, you've said that to me 10 times and I always get it wrong, so I apologize. So if you look into the board packet, you will see in red where we want to add it so that it's in the policy, so that our students at Fort Bragg High School or at Noyo Lighthouse can use that CTE pathway in order to get that 3rd year.
Or you could continue to just take
Or you can continue to take Algebra 2, Trig, Calculus, Statistics, all those count as a 3rd year as well.
Okay. Are there any clarifying questions or discussion from the board? Public comment?
There is no public comment.
Okay, thank you. If there's no questions or discussion, may I have a motion?
I'll move to approve BP 6146.1, the change in the high school graduation requirements.
I'll second.
Okay. And roll call?
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
President Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Matson?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
And Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Very good. And so just to clarify, this will be effective next year?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Moving on to the next item is 10.8, the COVID-19 spending plan for AB 86.
Okay, so you have the completed plan. You can see it's not a huge document and it doesn't have a whole lot of detail, but we have discussed this in the past. And before we dive into that, I'd like to tie it to the public comment we had earlier requesting that we look at using some of these funds for some of the things that our wonderful parents clubs have been unable to raise money for this year and the past year and a half. And all of those are wonderful, worthwhile things. And what I would encourage them to do is work with their site administrators to come up with a list of proposals for things they would like to see so that we can compare them to the allowable uses. Because there is going to be a fair amount of scrutiny on a lot of these funds, and some of them are a little more restrictive than others. And so we would need to sit down and look at them and see which of the pots they might fit into. For the moment, for AB 86, and I hope that the person who wrote the letter was looking at the summer schedule that we're putting together, there is a lot of enrichment. There's a lot of social emotional learning. There are a lot of those things being addressed there in a permissible way and allowing for expanded learning opportunities, which is what this grant is all about. So I would very much entertain having a list of proposals for things that we can consider and see if they fit into one of the other little COVID pots that might be perhaps slightly less restrictive. So turning to the grant plan, if you look at the very first paragraph, it says implement learning recovery program for at least the students included or one or more of the following groups. And that's basically our unduplicated count. So again, that's where the focus of this pot and one of the other pots is quite focused on that group of students in particular. So we did take care to make sure that the plan that things that were put into this plan would cover that. And we discussed most of these things in here in actually a little more detail than the plan actually asks for. And you see that there are the planned expenditures, and then there are the actual expenditures, obviously are blank because we haven't even received the money yet, let alone approved it. And then, so that'll be updated in December of 2022 with the actual amounts that are spent. And another one of the fund groups that are focusing on the same unduplicated count is the ESSER2. It's I don't remember the acronym, but it's another one that is focused on the unduplicated count. And they specifically ask us to explain how the two are working together to accomplish that. And there are a number of these items that are going to be partially funded with AB 86 and partially funded with the ESSER2 model. So especially things that might travel over a couple of years. For instance, if we don't have enough money to do summer school twice out of one of them, we can use the other one to supplement it. And so there are a number of areas where we're hoping to be able to do that. So I will ask if you have any questions about this plan. It is something that's required to be adopted or approved by the board by June 1st in order to qualify for these funds. And this is what we're proposing.
I just had a question. When we had the summer school report, some of it's going to be supplemental concentration, but you're also going to try to use some of the pots of money here on the
No, summer school is going to be completely funded out of AB 86.
For this year?
For this year, except for the migrant ed piece, because there's a migrant ed component that is completely separate. So those students will have their migrant ed piece, they will have their summer school from AB 86, and then they will be released for the last hour to do migrant ed things. And then we will also be doing the extended session for special ed like we usually do, which is also funded from a separate place. So those are two little separate pieces that are regular ongoing things that we do. And this is additional summer programs that we have not been able to do before. But it might be something, we certainly have funding for it for 2 years with the COVID money, and it perfectly addresses the expanded learning opportunities for students for 2 years. We can certainly, if this is successful and does well by our kids, we can certainly consider looking at possibly continuing it with our supplemental concentration money in the future. But for now, it's being funded out of COVID dollars.
And Diana, just for clarification, in the board report under summer school, the funding sources that are listed are migrant education grant and COVID-19 relief funds. We are using supplemental and concentration funds for the bilingual family liaison.
Gotcha. Okay, very good. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Scott?
So it's great you have the instructions and strategies for the expenditures. I guess I'm just requesting some sort of report of what you actually spent the money on after it's spent.
Well, we have to, and these are the plans for the areas, and we did talk about them last month with some of the things that we're considering doing specifically. And as when we get closer, we will definitely give a full report on exactly what it was spent on, and hopefully the actuals will be close to the planned, but they may change a little bit. We may find that one thing isn't working so well, so we'll try something else, or something, we may come up with a different idea for something. But for the moment, these are the things that we believe will help the most students to try to recover from any learning loss, especially our unduplicated count.
Thank you for bringing that up, Scott. I'll put on my notes to have a report later, as we did get the detailed list, and this form's just not requiring that information. And there's a deadline, and this is the first deadline. But I know something got removed from that list. And so I'll make sure that there's a report to know exactly how these funds were, what was benefiting from these funds. The first
one. The reason, and I don't remember specifically what it was that we moved, was because the more we looked at it, the more it didn't really quite fit into that category. So it was moved into a different category of CRF funds to look at.
I think the only thing, it was the desks and chairs.
Right. That's not really something that belonged in this pot of money. So we moved it into a different one that was more geared towards the reopening of school.
Yep. That was the only thing I saw removed. So that other list from last month, people could look at and we could ask if that was spent and how it's going. Are there any public comments for other than the one we received earlier?
No, there's no additional public comment.
Okay, Mary.
Just really quick, Wendy, I think it bears saying that we all, I'm going to speak for everybody. I think we all feel the same, but appreciate how the work that you've put into this. And COVID has thrown a huge amount onto your plate this year and next year, apparently. So thank you so much for being so laser focused and doing, the best things we can with that money and spreading it as far as we can. So kudos. Thank you.
Thank you. It's kind of like a little puzzle.
I think she enjoys it.
And you're good at
something wrong with me, I know.
I get it. So seeing no other questions or concerns, may I have a motion to approve to meet the deadline of June 30th? Or
June 1st.
June 1st. Sorry.
I'll go ahead and move to approve the item 10.8 COVID-19 spending plan for AB 86.
Is there a second? Kathy.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
President Paoli?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
And Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. So moved, approved. And so just to make a note, it was April 20th special board meeting of the funding option. So we can look back at that and ask questions on if exactly if those positions and all the PD days and other Chromebooks were updated with this money. And moving on to the next item is 10.9, the window replacement at Redwood Elementary School.
So what you have here is actually a fee proposal from QKA, our architects, to proceed with this particular project, which would be funded out of the American Relief Plan dollars that are coming someday. We have until September of 2024 to spend those dollars. It was a large pot of money that's available, and it was one of the particular things they discussed that are permissible uses is ventilation, and Redwood does not have adequate window ventilation. Where it's positioned, you lose a lot of the heat in the room. And so this will allow us to do that project because there wasn't sufficient money in the bond proceeds to be able to do all of the things that we do have planned and the windows. So this will allow us to do that. And I know that we don't have a completely approved plan for that money yet, but if there's a little bit of a time crunch on this for a couple of reasons. Apparently the windows are going to be taking quite some time to get We still have to go through DSA. There's a lot of planning that has to go into it. So we're requesting that you approve this piece for that particular pot of money so that we can get moving on it and hopefully accomplish it in the spending amount of time before 2024.
Okay, does anyone have any questions? Jerry?
And this is only for the design and engineering portion of that project.
This is right. This is just to allow QKA to go ahead with the design and the engineering and start some of the process. It kind of means that we're intending to go ahead with it, although we can stop it at any time if we decide not to. And the amount that we have estimated for it is a little higher than what they thought it might be, but with cost escalations, I think it's always better to err a little bit on the side of higher.
Yeah, we got into one of those in Mendocino at the school down there, and the dry rot just drove the cost astronomically high. So to tread lightly.
Yeah. That's a word we definitely hope we don't hear.
No D word. No D word.
No. And so I just want to make the comment that those windows are over 50 years old. So I think that the ventilation it's inefficient for heat because the heat goes right out the window. So the design of the window makes it wasteful for the heat efficiency.
Right. It's 16th inch plate glass.
Yeah.
So it's bad on many levels. So
well, and I appreciate
an opportunity for us to do that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that it would save the community bond money, and it's something that needs to be addressed. And that ESSER 3 fund has $4.7 million. So I think it's a what I would call, a future investment that will benefit the district for years to come. So
well, it will likely save us a lot in utility costs too, because the heat that gets lost through a 16th inch plate glass window is significant.
Are there any public comment while Mary speaks?
There's no public comment.
Is there any way with any of these funds, obviously we'll have to get new window coverings, that we can invest in something's much more functional and effective than what they've currently got there?
Absolutely. I'm hoping that they will come up with something that is perhaps a frosted window, maybe, that will act in that capacity, or something. This cost, I don't know if it includes any coverings. Mm-hmm. I don't believe so, but we can certainly look at that. But that doesn't, lend itself to ventilation. So it would be something we'd have to come up with out of something else.
Okay, thanks.
So, but this is just for them to provide. We'll end up getting some sort of a visual of what the new windows will look like and what they'll cost. And so,
yes.
So there's really time to make that suggestion to look to solve that problem.
Well, we would have to look at alternate funding for that piece, because that isn't part of the ventilation. It would be something else. So we would have to find another way to fund that, which we might be able to have. It might be a couple of years before this is done. So we might be able to squirrel away some money to plan to do that, maybe in our routine restricted maintenance money or something else. But it wouldn't be able to come out of this pot of money.
Right. Thank you for that question, because it doesn't hurt to ask, but it may not be within our budget. But you'd hate to ask later and realize we could have afforded it, because it's minimal. Right. Just change the tent on a window or something. But anyway, is there a motion to approve or further discussion?
I will make a motion that we approve item number 10.9, window replacement at Redwood Elementary School.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Scott. Roll call, please.
Trustee Makla?
Yes.
Trustee Mattson?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
Trustee Babcock?
Yes.
And President Paoli?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you. I think it's the last one. The last
board
action,
policies.
Yeah, is 10.2 board policy, which we reviewed at the last board meeting, and most of them were law changes and didn't need any revisions. There was an option on AR 3230 federal grant funds, but otherwise they were all directives from the law, state law. So do we have any questions or public comment before we make a motion?
There is no public comment.
I would like to say I really like this format, going through each item. Thank you, Renee, or whoever did all that work.
Thank you, Renee. Is there a motion?
Oh, I'll do it. I'd like to approve the board policy as presented in 10.2.
10.10.
Oh, sorry. I'm looking right at it. 10.10. And I should say board policy, administrative regulation, and bylaw updates.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Mary, thank you. Roll call, please.
President Paoli,
Yes.
Trustee Babcock,
Yes.
Trustee Makala,
Yes.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
and Trustee Mattson.
Yes.
And the motion carries. Thank you.
Great. That completes the action items. And I will, we're having a special meeting later this month. I think it's later this month. And I'll be earmarking the board electronic communications and meetings and notices for us to discuss as a small group, as a public forum, because they're important to talk about specifically. Moving on to information and discussion, 11.1, 2021-2024 LCAP development.
So we are including this again in discussion because I did meet with the virtual learning team, the Link Crew students at Fort Bragg High School. And I have to tell you, when you get to spend any time with kids, whether it's on the screen or in person, it's just fantastic. So I had a great time meeting with them. They had wonderful contributions to the discussion. I included all of their comments in the form that we have now. So so now it's all of our LCAP meetings, all 8 of them are now in one spot so that you can see the input. I tried to make each section visually easy to identify. So you have goal 1, goal 2, and goal 3. I'll be using this information to update our LCAP, which you will have the first read on May 27th. So we'll be working diligently on that, getting that together. So you can see that for college and career, they wanted more AVID, more opportunities to work in jobs and businesses with community organization. That leads right into our career pathways for internships. They wanted to provide more college classes that are based on student interest. So we appreciated that comment, and we're looking into more things on that level, provide more Mendocino college classes that they can choose rather than they're assigned. For goal 2 of increasing student academic achievement, they wanted more time to get their stuff done, and that's exactly how it was said. So I really appreciated that comment. Between their classes, between sports, between work, some of them really had a legitimate concern with just needing some time to get extra things done. They wanted more opportunities for fun classes. They wanted to provide more opportunities to support students. They wanted some lunchtime tutoring. They wanted one-on-one opportunities to work with teachers to get help. They wanted a wider variety of language classes. This has been brought up a number of times. So we talked about, would students do that if it was on Acellus? It's difficult to hire a full-time French teacher, a full-time Japanese teacher. That's difficult to have on campus. We'd have to have enough student interest in order to support that. So we talked about doing some online opportunities, and some of them said that they would do that. They wanted more groups like AVID. They wanted more classes like Econ and Government earlier, and I thought that was interesting. They wanted to be able to take those classes earlier in their high school career. And from the adult perspective, we put it later in their high school career because they're more mature, right? They can grasp those and actually apply those a little more readily. So, but good comments. They wanted more life skill classes, and they wanted more high interest novels for English. So I think we can all relate to that. The English teachers do a great job. I'm old, and I still remember the books that we read in high school, and I think some of them are still around. So they wanted more high interest books. And then for improved school culture, they wanted to organize the daily bulletin, which I thought was interesting at Fort Bragg High School, based on freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, kind of like a matrix, so they could go right to that grade level. I thought that was a good comment. They wanted more text messages to communicate news. They didn't want to get it in the email, and they didn't want to have to go to an app. They wanted it as a text. So that was fascinating to me. And then they wanted more picnic tables and more art around the school. That's how they really felt you can improve school culture. And so out of this, we were telling them that we were looking at the covered shade structures, that we brought those bids to you before. And today, I got to walk at Fort Bragg High School with one of the representatives and look at different things for an outdoor shade structure and more picnic tables. So we're listening to the call here, and we're doing what we can. Questions?
So when the first read is May 27th, and then we need to have the document approved at a public hearing by, no,
it comes to a public hearing. The as close to final as possible comes to a public hearing along with the budget, and then at a second meeting, it gets approved. They can't be approved and the public hearing and the approval can't happen at the same meeting. This is just a kind of a preliminary, this is what we're looking at, for another opportunity for people to give some final input.
So the 27th will be the public hearing, and then
No.
Public,
okay, so let's back up here. The 27th is when we're going to give you the opportunity to do a first read of the LCAP. Right. You can look at it. You can see the words on paper, online. Yeah. You see the words, we digest it, we talk about it. You can tell me if you want some things changed. Then we move it to June. The regular board meeting in June, on June 17th, will be the public hearing. That's when we will present as close to a final copy based off the first read that we had. Okay, that will be the public hearing. That's when we're going to present it with the budget, and we hold the public hearing, and then we hold. Have the public hearing, everything stops. Then we go to the next meeting, which I believe is I'm looking at I think it's the following week. Is it the 21st? 23rd. Then we come to the 23rd, and that's when you're going to approve it.
Okay.
And it shouldn't be presumptuous. That's when it will be on the agenda for approval, right?
Very good. So we have opportunities to have, maybe we'll bring it up at board chat, because that's already happening. Because people, once you ask the question, they have all kinds of, if you just do the narrative of what's working for your student, what do you need support with? Because I found it fascinating going with the LCAP meetings. People just want their kids to be successful, and they don't know what to ask if they don't know about it. They were intimidated by college and what opportunities they had for students. So the dual enrollment, I would think, would help that you're doing, and wouldn't it be neat to have maybe this language in a dual enrollment? I don't know if they have Italian or Chinese or Mandarin, available that way, or what's involved with that. But thank you for getting input from students.
And I also want to just reiterate that we had a lot of public input meetings. We provided a lot of opportunities for our families to speak with us about the LCAP. And the board chats are also another place where they can do that. I met with someone yesterday, and the comment was, you are only as happy as your saddest child. And that really resonated with me. And I say that because one of the things that you just said, Diana, our parents want our kids happy. That's the universal goal of every mom and dad, of every parent, everywhere. We only want our kids happy. And so when we have happy kids, we have happy families. When we have happy kids, we have happy parents. And that really is something that was true in every meeting that we had. Our families wanted our kiddos to be successful. And that really was at the core of every meeting. What can we do to make our kids more successful? And so what I was delighted with was being able to have the opportunity to meet with so many different groups and hear many of the same things resonate throughout those messages. So I believe we have good comprehensive input from many different venues of the public, and we are going to be moving forward with getting the LCAP together in order so you can have your first read on the 27th.
Okay, very good. And just one last question about the information. They wanted more text messages. Do students get Parent Square text message? Do they get, can that be an option for students to receive the messages the parents are getting?
So they do.
Okay.
When I go into Parent Square, I can put in if the message goes out to just staff and parents, or if it goes out to staff, students, and parents. Now, when I do it for the district, I always limit it to staff and parents because the kindergartners don't need to get my messages, right?
Well, hopefully they don't have cell phones.
Well,
to get them.
But every Fbusd student has an Fbusd email account.
Okay, gotcha.
So I can put it out in all those venues. So when we do it by school, based on grade level, we determine who gets what. So whoever is sending the message has the ability to notate on Parent Square, choose the groups that they want to receive that message. So will you get it on your phone? How I get it on my phone is I get a notification saying, oh, you have a new Parent Square message. But then I open the app and there's the message. And what kids want, they don't want a notification to say open the app. What they want is they just want to show up as a text. And so I'm looking into that to see if that's something we can do. But right now it goes through the app and you do get it on your phone. So that's where that comment was from.
Yeah, because I've gotten text messages for grades. You know, like
that's because yes.
Yeah, because that's with Aries, and that's pretty cool. I think kids might like that. Maybe they don't want that. Thank you for the input. Are there any further questions, or are there any public comment on the LCAP development?
No, there's no additional public comment.
Thank you.
I just
Scott, and then Kathy.
Sorry, Kathy. All the feedback's really great. I think the language learning is something it would be great to look into, especially with all the online opportunities out there and the language classes that exist. And after this COVID experience, it's a plus now that we've all had some experience with it. So I hope that's something that we can try and do.
And Kathy?
I just want to appreciate every time the LCAP comes up and we need more feedback, we try different things. So, you know, Becky's done the road show, and then, you know, and you've now talked to kids. And I just feel like each time as you guys know, I am not a check the box kind of person. I want things to be meaningful and not just to satisfy what people say. And I really think every time since I've been on the board, that you've revisited that you've expanded and found better and more meaningful ways to engage with people. So I just want to thank you and the staff for doing that.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah, thank you. So moving on to 11.2, in-person board meetings and in-person public comment.
So we are watching some things in town, trying to get back to in-person meetings. Some things are working, some things are not. CDC truly just announced today that if you are fully vaccinated, you no longer have to be masked or socially distanced in public, in indoor and outdoor spaces. So we do have the opportunity to do that. We can have it potentially. I'm always trying to be sensitive about the vaccine issue because the vaccine issue is sensitive to people. To me, if the board is fully vaccinated and all of us are coming into room 306, then we can hold an in-person meeting without being masked, according to the CDC guidance. Now, the difficulty is that we have the CDC guidance, but we also have the California Department of Public Health guidance. I would recommend that we wait until it comes out through our public health officer, and that's done through California Department of Public Health before we make that leap. It's a very new announcement. I'm assuming that our public health officer and CDPH, California Department of Public Health, will also follow suit. They typically do. I think that this is an opportunity for us to, number one, encourage our families. I know it's a very private thing about vaccinations, But if you were thinking about it, you didn't know if you wanted to do it or did do it, this is more information to help you make that decision. And then for us as a board, if we want to hold in-person meetings, I would suggest that we become very crystal clear on what that looks like. I think people are trying to do both things right now, and it's become a little difficult. My hat's off to the city. They really tried to do their city council meeting in town hall and give everybody the option to be where they need to be. I think for our limited IT group, thank you, Nathan Alexander, I really want to support his efforts in what he's been able to do for us. I think it would be incredibly difficult for us to do part online, part in person. So if we're going to do it, I think we need to wait first off until CDPH and our public health officer blesses it so that we're following our county guidance. And then when you're ready, we go back to Route 306 at the high school.
Yeah, thank you for looking into that. And we did speak about it, I think, at the agenda setting. And I've watched a few other school boards to meet, regardless if it's masked, fully vaccinated, distancing. When you're all in one room, and you could do it so many different ways, but there's always back feed. You're actually making it harder for anyone that's watching in distant learning. It's not improving our public comment opportunity. And then there was another one that they were in the gym and they couldn't hear through the speakers, but they could hear someone giving a report next to them. And it was just really, it was even more difficult to follow, like for the public and then for themselves. So we don't want to create more difficulty for people to follow what's happening at our board meetings. But it's just unfortunate. It's not easier. I mean, once you start thinking about the logistics, it's not helping clarity with public comment. And
so how we've done our board meetings prior to COVID was very effective. Mm-hmm. We have mics. Those mics are connected to a mixer so that the sound goes directly into the streaming source. So that's why people could hear us. If we go back to in-person meetings, we need to go back to that setup where we have our mics out. They're completely directly streamed in so that folks can hear, and we don't compromise that. What's going to be tricky is if we're all together and we want to provide an opportunity for public input, the question is going to be, and this is what makes me nervous, are we going to ask for vaccine cards at the door in order to come into the meeting unmasked? And that's the tricky part. If folks don't have a vaccine card, then they need to come in masked, and they can still provide public input while they're masked. Does that make sense? I mean, we're going to have some guidelines with this. If we have people who are on the board who are not vaccinated, then they would have to be masked. Does that make sense? So this is the tricky part. It's almost like the Scarlet A, right? You're masked or you're not vaccinated. You're unmasked. And this really makes me nervous because I want to keep people's private decisions private. But if we go back to an in-person setting, we have to follow the public guidance that goes with it from public health. So that's what makes me nervous on this. I do not want to continue, though, in an online setting because we are a public entity. We are the recipient of public funds. This has never been the intention of the Brown Act. The intention of the Brown Act is to provide a public forum for a public meeting so that community members can come in and provide that input in a live setting. It is very different to read an email than the person to deliver the email in their tone, their voice, and their body language. So I want to throw that out there and just let you know, again, that decision from CDC was publicized today. It is hot off the presses. We have no response from CDPH or our public health officer yet. I anticipate that will be coming soon. This is just a discussion item. We're not making any action item. I would just recommend to the board for right now that we continue in this mode until we receive something from CDPH and our public health officer. And then if we do go back, we really need to consider how you want to go back. So that I don't want to out anybody. If we could say that we're going to go back to meetings and everybody is masked so that we don't ask any questions about vaccine cards or no vaccine cards. There are many things that we can do. The difficulty about being in a meeting when you're fully masked is some of the words may get jumbled. Sometimes it's a little difficult to hear. Our teachers are teaching with their masks on. We can easily meet together with our masks on. And we can turn up the volume on those on the microphones. So you would need to think about some of the conditions that you would want to hold so that we are sensitive to our community, but also keeping people safe.
Okay, this is just a discussion item, so that's good information. Does anyone else have any clarifying questions? And we can make sure that this is discussed when we have more guidelines from our county. Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to 11.3, the proposal for FBDTA negotiations.
So in order for us to open an article with FBDTA, we need to sunshine it. And so in speaking with our legal counsel, sunshining means that we have to give the public the opportunity to provide input. So today I'm bringing to you the letter that I have sent to FBDTA President and Vice President, FBDTA President Sarah McGee, Vice President Gary Lewis. We presented this letter so that we can allow the public to provide input. We are actually, I'm going to ask to amend this. I would like this to be sunshine today, and then I'd like you to take action on it on May 24th, which is the special board meeting that you're holding a board workshop for. And the reason why I'd like you to do it on the 24th is because we are negotiating on the 25th. So we were able to provide a date that is better than the date that we have in the letter. So in order to make that happen, you would need to take action on the 24th to approve this. It still gives our public the opportunity to provide input. They can provide input today up until the 24th. They can provide input on the 24th. So it still meets our obligation to allow public input.
Great.
So all that you're seeing today is we're officially sunshining. It's a discussion. Do you have any questions for me?
And so the only item on this is just the consensus.
Yes.
That's what you're sunshining, that
one article, that one clause.
Okay. Kathy?
Yeah.
Kathy? Yeah.
Do you want to finish your thought, Becky? Or? So I just wanted to, it's the example that you're giving there is about the, of a new schedule, but does the consensus also could have been about going to in person or, any of that, or is it just specifically?
So I
didn't read the contract.
No, that's okay. In Article 17.1.1, it specifically uses the word consensus as it pertains to a school schedule. Oh. When FBDTA votes on something for the contract, that's a different voting mechanism. That has nothing to do with consensus. If anybody from FBDTA is watching, I apologize if I'm getting this wrong. I believe it's a 2/3 majority vote that has to be reached when they're changing contract language. So that's different. So right now, if let's say, for instance, let's say Redwood, their work time is 8 to 3:30, and let's pretend that they decide, no, we want to work 8:15 to 3:45, or they wanted to change it. In order to make that change, collectively, the certificated staff would have to come to their definition of consensus in order to make that happen.
So like a site decision scheduled to get.
Yes, and the contract specifically speaks to a scheduling decision.
Very good. Thank you for clarifying. Does anyone else have any further comments on that item, or is there public comment on the proposal?
There's no public comment.
Okay. So that's the last item for information and discussion. And that moves us to section 12, which is advanced planning suggestions for future meetings. So we kind of talked about that through the LCAP process, what will be coming up and coming. So does anyone have any other questions or concerns?
Is scholarship night going to be virtual?
I'm sorry?
Is scholarship night going to be virtual?
Oh, we're almost there.
But
I saw that online. So we can move on to the housekeeping. So awards night and scholarship night, one said virtual and one said in person. So
okay, awards night will be virtual. Scholarship night will be live.
So, and that is
Very
that
exciting.
7 o'clock instead of 5, or is that? It's online. I think it said 7 p.m.
Let me look on my calendar because I have it there. And this is why we didn't have a board workshop on the 25th. Scholarship night's at 5 o'clock.
Oh, 5 o'clock. Okay.
Yeah, and I believe they're doing it in the quad so that it's outside. Or hold on, no, I think it might be in the gym. I'm not sure. Don't quote me. But I'm just excited it's going to be in person.
Is that requiring a ticket to get in for scholarship night?
I have to check.
So because just like with anything, with the graduation, or I mean, I would love to be present, but I don't want to take someone's seat if there is a capacity issue. So just make sure that we know if we shouldn't be there and we can watch it virtually, or if we should be there. But I definitely don't want to take, a loved one or, a staff seat if there is a capacity issue. But moving on to the rest of the housekeeping, it looks like the high school site council meeting is May 18th. I can attend for a half an hour as a parent. I don't know if Kathy, that'd be one day after you'll be able to attend, because I will be attending by phone, which is not ideal. And then there's a Three Rivers May 18 meeting, which I believe Mary is able to take on. And I believe there's a Redwood Parent Club meeting at 5 that night. And I might be out of town, actually, or I have another obligation. So I don't know if there's a backup for someone attending the Redwood Parent Club. I might be able to pop in if no one is, but those are really fun. Nice group of nice group of staff and family. May 19th is 5 p.m. awards night, which is virtual. And then we're having a special board meeting workshop to talk about RPD. A few of us went on some virtual, and we wanted to report out on that. We wanted to talk about Google Drive, and we wanted to talk about continuing our goal of becoming more community involved and with our state legislature. And then we'll have, it sounds like maybe a special action item for the negotiation on that night. And then May 25th is the in-person scholarship night, 5 o'clock, to be determined venue and if there is a ticket required. And then we have another special board meeting on May 27th, which will include first read of LCAP, and I think maybe school plans and probably some other good information, maybe on the May revise, some sort of a budget. I'm not sure. And then June 1 is another tobacco education night, 5 p.m. for Spanish and 5:30 for English. And that's virtual. Is that right? Okay. And we'll get the link. Somehow we'll get a Parent Square to remind. And then, yay, June 11th is last day of school. And June, although that's, I guess that is, our next board meeting is after school of June 17th.
And again, the 3 dates that aren't on this, and I apologize for that, June 9th is the commencement for alternative education. That's the graduation ceremony, June 9th. Graduation ceremony for Alt Ed, June 10th is the 8th grade promotion ceremony. And then June 11th is Fort Bragg High School commencement graduation ceremony.
Okay. And then we have June 15th, which is Three Rivers board meeting. And I believe, Mary, you and Jerry could probably arm wrestle for that one because there's 2 meetings in June. And I think Mary is agenda setting for June 17th meeting, and Jerry is the agenda setting for the June 23rd meeting. So maybe between the two of you, you can decide who wants to go to Three Rivers on June 15th.
I'm fine to do that.
Okay.
Unless you want to, Jerry.
I was going to do the Dana Gray Parents Club on June 8th.
Okay, yeah, I can do this.
On June 8th. Okay, very good. And then I just have one announcement. At one of the agenda settings, I had brought up if you're not a parent and you're a board member, you may not know, you might not see some of the letters that we get as parents. And so Parent Square, I ended up doing as an experiment to get all sites. So I just want to say that I've done that. And technically I could be getting a letter that someone else on the board isn't getting, although it's public. So if anyone else wants to try that, to contact Renee. But I wanted to disclose that I had gotten some messages from the sites, just like if I was a parent at Redwood or Dana Gray or middle school. And that's actually how I learned about the pickup change at Redwood. I wouldn't have known that. And so luckily I'd gotten that message and a parent had asked, but I still didn't have an answer for them. But at least I kind of knew about it. So it was just an easy way to kind of, and they also some schools give reminders of the parent club meeting. So it was another nice way to get a push out as a board member, oh yeah, that's my obligation, or making sure that it's covered. So just wanted to disclose that. If there are no further announcements or reminders, Mary?
Oh, I just wanted to, if people haven't signed up, or if you have time tomorrow night, I believe it's CSBA, the May budget revision webinar is tomorrow at 5:30, which I'm guessing it'll be a lively one.
Yes, and they said that even if you register and you can't attend, that they'll send you the recorded version. And there's also another, I don't remember the organization, but there's another reporting of the May revise. We just got an email today, or just tonight, that you can pick any district office and attend the recap of that, just another version. And even because the problem with the May revise is it changes, but it's just getting the education of the terminology and why things happen, and they're not wasteful, even if the information is not always accurate, because it could still change again. But with that, thank you for the announcements. And is there a motion to adjourn at 8:25?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second? Mary?
I'll second.
Thank you. Are there any objections to adjourning at 8:25? Seeing none, it looks like we've done a voice vote, and we are adjourned at 8:25. Thank you, everyone.
Folks.
Happy
Thank you,
staff
Nathan.
days to all of you.
Have a great night.
Night.